What kind of changes is the Robredo camp expecting as the COMELEC reviews Oplan Baklas? That big question and more with Atty. Gutierrez, spokesperson of Vice President Leni Robredo. Good evening, Atty. Gutierrez, and welcome to the big story.
Good evening, Gretchen, and happy to be here.
Attorney Barry, one of the more controversial takedowns is that mural in Isabela made by volunteers painted over by the COMELEC. What other reports have you been getting that are possibly contentious and maybe brought up against the COMELEC?
Well, the mural is really, I think, the worst example of how ridiculous this COMELEC policy is with regard to takedown. Because in that particular case, it wasn't even a traditional campaign material. It was not a poster or a tarp. And they did not simply take it off. They painted over it. So clearly, that was crossing the line insofar as suppression of free speech and freedom of expression is already concerned. But in all the other cases where entry of COMELEC officials, sometimes accompanied by armed individuals, onto private property against the objection of the owners, and taking down materials which are actually private properties of these homeowners, we think that's also highly irregular and in violation of not only the constitutional freedom of speech, but of the Supreme Court pronouncements in Diocese of Bacolod, Adyong, and in other cases. And it's clearly beyond the scope of what the COMELEC is authorized to regulate, even during the campaign period.
Okay, so attorney, have you been compiling these reports, and is the Robredo camp looking to file charges against COMELEC?
Yes, both on social media and from direct communications from various private citizens who have volunteered for the campaign. We are compiling these reports. As to what action should be taken, we're already in consultation with several lawyers. Some are suggesting that criminal cases be filed at the localities where these actions took place. Others are actually suggesting that we immediately file a case before the Supreme Court. So we're still studying the possible options, but definitely we will take action. And although the COMELEC has somehow taken a step back, and they're saying that now they will review it, and we welcome that, nonetheless the options remain, and we feel that, particularly given the pronouncement that at the end of the day the COMELEC might pursue cases against these private persons, then we might also consider taking the case to courts to get a definitive pronouncement as to this.
As you mentioned, the COMELEC is now reviewing the IIR of the Fair Elections Act. What clarifications or changes are you looking to add? Because it has been very, very confusing of what is now allowed and what is prohibited.
Well, we should be very clear. The Fair Election Act itself only regulates materials if they are produced or actually put up by candidates or political parties. The act is silent as to the actions of private citizens, and in the cases I mentioned, the Supreme Court was very clear to make a distinction that if it's a private citizen exercising his or her freedom of speech, putting up a poster on private property, then that should not be covered in COMELEC regulations. That's the clear status of the law right now. So it actually came as a surprise to us that the COMELEC, when they decided to enforce the Fair Election Act through COMELEC Resolution 10730, and they actually went out and did Oplan Baklas, that they encroached into private property, that they took down materials which were put up by the homeowners themselves. And in the example I mentioned earlier of the mural, going to the extent of actually painting it over. So this is really clearly beyond what the COMELEC is empowered to do, and we hope that the review of their own rules by the Commission will actually make that clear, that what they are regulating should be actions and materials put up by candidates and political parties as the law provides. And as we have made very clear before, we are certainly, definitely going to comply if it is the candidate or the political party that is being made subject to these regulations and the law.
Thank you very much. That was Atty. Barry Gutierrez, spokesperson of Vice President Leni Robredo.